We got live on the Rise and React Media line. We got Chris Franklin at C Franklin News right out of NJ.com. Like I said, I have them scrolling. You make sure. It says all the time. I have these guests on, number one, because they're amazing, but number two, because you need to follow these people if you want credible information. Chris, I saw you the other day. I saw you right there with your phone at AJ, right in front of AJ locker room. I was like, there he is, man. He showed up again. You're always on the scene, man. How you doing, buddy?
Not bad, man. And remind me to make sure I get your Venmo for that introduction you gave me, man. I owe you some money for that. No, this was not brought to you by Tony.
Here's the thing. It's fun. I had Michael KB on from 97.3 ESPN to talk Sixers the other day, and Anthony went off. I mean, we had a great conversation. You've been on me multiple times, and I said this afterwards, and you know this. I said I went on this big rant about how beat writers get no respect, and people just don't understand. Like, you have to live, breathe, and eat your craft. Like, in the beginning, like, part of you get paid like shit. You're running around like crazy. You're eating in your car. You're trying to get the story. And nowadays, man, you got to do social media. You got to do your own promos. You need a staff of 10 people, and you got to do it all by yourself, man. So I commend you guys for everything you do, man. I
appreciate. Yeah, we're investigators. We're this one too, and our loved ones are like, do you get sleep? Half the times, like, well, sleep is a theory. Yeah. Regular schedules are a theory, but yeah, it's craziness. But I appreciate it. It's a lot of work, but we love it. We keep doing it to ourselves because we love the job, and it's fun, man. It's fun.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's something to say. I learned this a long time ago because people, I always say I always chose health over money all the time, but I also wanted to always be able to do what I love to do. And you can make a lot of money. That's fine. But at the end of the day, if you hate what you do, you're always going to hate going to work. You're not going to enjoy yourself. So I'd rather just take that step back and enjoy myself. And I know that's what you guys do too. And you do a great job. And, covering this team this year, Chris, I'll tell you what, this has been, talk about a rocky road, man. You've had your work cut out for you this year.
Was that James Taylor song? We've seen fire, we've seen rain, we've seen sunny day.
Oh my God.
It's been craziness between a team that was 10-1, like they're going to run away with this conference. There was a time, I know you remember this. There's a time when there's a scenario coming up where they could have been the first team to clinch a playoff spot in division. Now you're looking at, will this team potentially be even a wild card team? It's just crazy how much this team has fallen from grace in a lot of aspects, and it's confounding. And then you have these big names, Julio. It's hard to forget. You still have Julio Jones on this team. You still have Kevin Byard on this team. You got all pros join this team midseason. It's a nonstop circus of news, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And there's so much to break down, and there's so many questions, and unfortunately, a lot of it's speculative. I mean, because none of us really know. I don't care who it is. None of us really know. I think even some of these players don't understand why things are happening. And, listen, we had a storybook year last year. We should have won the Super Bowl. We didn't. If my man Thomas, we got Thomas Light checking this, that the Eagles fall off is insane. Here's a Houston Texans fan, a Houston Astros fan. He even sees it. And, I did see one thing, Chris. So one thing I thought, a lot of people were killing A.J. Brown. And I get it, man. Like, the media is crazy. Not everybody's like, not everybody's like Chris Franklin, right? Not everybody's credible in the sense that you're not looking for fabricated stories. You're not looking for, things of that nature just to get your name out there. And, AJ is like, look, if I'm going to say anything, they're going to take it any way they want anyway. So why don't I say nothing? But the thing I will commend them on, I think personally, that took, even more of a step of him being a leader, because he saw how much it was weighing on the entire team. And finally said, you know what, even though I feel this way, I got to go out there and I got to speak my mind. I think that's why he did what he did.
It's tough for anybody to go in front. Whenever we have to go, whenever you have to go and stand in front of your teammates, your colleagues or whatever, and apologize, that's always a tough thing. But for him to be able to do that, and realize that it was weighing on everybody, I respect that a lot. And it wasn't like hey, I want to issue a statement on Twitter and then that'll be it. We're going to forget about it. No, he really stuck up. And the fact, the one thing for me that I really was impressed by was that when he talked about the Seattle game, where he admitted he was freelancing and that
Yep.
Nick took the that Nick took the blame for everything like that, saying look, drawing the pass interference. He's looking to draw pass interference, and for Nick to do that, I think we're seeing that the benefit of Nick and how much he values his players and be willing to do that and cover for his players, and B for AJ to say like, yo, listen, stop, for lack of a better word, stop making stuff up about us. I really look at him in an even better light. I respected him a lot beforehand because I felt bad because even before this, 2 weeks before he went on the silence, there was that story that came out saying that the offense was predictable and everything else. Well, there was somebody on social media attributed saying, "Oh no, it was him," and it wasn't. It was an unnamed player. We still don't know who it is. I'm trying. It's almost like being in Colombo trying to find out who this
Yeah.
unnamed player was. Like, who said this? But yeah, he got pictures were going around saying, "Oh, AJ Brown said that one," and he started getting vilified. That's when he really was starting to get vilified,
Yep.
and you feel bad for him. He told us like we were talking in the lockers, and like he's telling a bunch of us like when you see you feel for him in a way, but the way he stood up, I think you're going to need young guys like this because the core of this team, the Brandon Grahams, the Jason Kelsey's, the Fletcher Coxes. They're not going to. There's a chance they're not about be back this year or the next year or the year after that. One of those years we don't know yet because we're a year. So you need this young core to step up. It can't just be Jalen. You need to see some of these other young leaders, and he's solidifying himself as one of those other young leaders.
Yeah, I think so too, man. And people forget this guy. This guy is young, man. He's not an old player at all. I think what's he 24, 25. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like people think he's been around forever. He really hasn't. I mean, it's crazy. Now, a good friend of the program, Joe says, and I agree with this. Joe says if they're freelancing, that shows no trust in the calls. And I gotta be honest. This is the way I think it is. And tell me if I'm way off base. I'm thinking, you know, to me, everybody's just pointing a finger at Brian Johnson, Brian Johnson, Brian Johnson. But my whole thing is, I don't think it's just one specific person, but if they are out there freelancing and they are out there shrugging their shoulders a little bit and they are confused, to me, I keep saying to myself, man, they don't trust what's being called. And for the life of me, Chris, this is 100% speculative. I said this last night, but Brian Johnson was one of the biggest reasons why Jalen Hurts had such a tremendous year last year. He knows Jalen Hurts. Jalen wanted him as an OC. So why on God's earth would Brian Johnson call plays that he knows are not in Jalen's wheelhouse and wouldn't benefit him? That's what I'm boggling my mind. Like you said, Colombo, they're the things I think about that don't make any sense.
well, there's also some influence in there when you have the head coach saying he wants to play a certain style because he wants to settle for a field goal or
Yeah.
after a penalty, like you saw last week. Because when you look at Nick Sirianni, he's not. I know everybody sees a tush push, brotherly shuffle, whatever you want to call it. They say, "Oh wow, he's aggressive." In nature, he's really conservative. And so
Yes.
a lot of times when he doesn't want to give the ball up, he wants to rely on defense. Well, if he had a better defense, that's a whole other
Mhm.
argument. But I think a lot of times he's conservative on that stuff. So that's why I think, and a lot of this offense is based off reads. You can tell us count the box, check what's going on. RPO goes one way, bubble screen another way. It's a lot of that stuff is read based, so that it relies back on that too. So there's so many Brian, I will say this: Brian, he deserves some blame. Nick Sirianni deserves blame. Jalen Hurts blame. Like
Yep.
there's a lot of times you can see it. It seems like it's a rotating thing. They just need 1 week. Like, well, they want to go the route they're going right now. They're going to need 5 weeks of basically stopping that we're all on the same page. Because if not, it'll be a sad thing to see a 10-1 team get bounced in the first round.
Oh man, it is. That's such a horrible thought. It really is. And again, we're talking to Chris Franklin. Give him a follow at cfranklinnewsnj.com. I have his link to the staff link to his website, man. He has tons of content every day on social media. And you just wrote up, talk about a horrible dream. We saw DeVonta Smith, get hurt, and he wasn't at practice today. What's your feeling on DeVonta? I mean, he hasn't missed a game in his whole career as the Eagles, but I just have that feeling that he's not going to be ready to go.
I think he's going to try to give it. In the cold weather, the way they're talking about potentially still like rainy, freezing, sleet, and everything else. He'll still try it to go. But the thing they have on their side is the game's not till 4:25, so that gives them time to
Okay.
warm it up and work it out. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see him on the field. I mean, the one time I thought was it a couple weeks ago when he had that knee thing. We didn't see him the first 2 weeks. Next thing you know, on Friday he's out there stretching. He's limited and he goes and plays. They're saying it was a minor thing. Like he was walking around the locker room. Saw him in the last 2 days. He's walking around the locker room. It's like, looks like he's all right, but it's a whole different thing when you're running. So I think he's going to try to give it a go pregame. And if he's good to go, then he's going to be out there. Might, for all we know, it could be one of those things what they did in his rookie season when they wanted him. They're trying to get him to a one of those milestones. He was out there, got one catch, they pulled him, so that way he wouldn't play till the following playoff game against the Bucks. So it could be a similar thing that they do that there. But if he's any semblance, if he's 51% to 55, if he's 51% or greater, he's going to be playing. I think.
Yeah, I listen. You could be right, man. I mean, he's got that eye of the tiger, man. Yeah, he really does. He's a tough dude. You wouldn't think about him that way because he's so small and thin, but he takes a beating. And I'll tell you, one of the things I keep thinking about, and I may get this wrong. I'm not sure. I think next year is going to be an option year for
Mhm.
DeVonta Smith, right? And
Yep.
will it be the last year for AJ Brown? He's on a 4-year deal, right? Is this the third or the second year? I
This
forget.
would be he signed it last year, the
Okay.
second year, so he'll be going to his third year.
So I
He'll be
think
going.
that's going to be an interesting thing. You can't possibly pay two basically number one receivers on the team. So I mean, look, I know it's looking down a road, but I mean, in essence, they're going to have to make a decision, aren't they?
I think I wouldn't be surprised if anything. I wouldn't be surprised if AJ restructures
Yeah,
because
that's yeah,
it's crazy as it sounds. Those two, like you think when you have two guys of that caliber, you think you'd be one of those things where, oh, I want the ball, no, I want the ball, no, I want the ball. No, they legitimately like each other so much so. And I reported this previously in the past when AJ was last year when AJ was up for the Pro Bowl, DeVonta was an alternate. If they hadn't gone, AJ would have gone and say, you know what, I'm hurt, and I put that in quotation marks to
yep,
give DeVonta a chance to go that way too. The two are always talking to each other that way too. There's a legitimate bond. I mean, even when Brown was talking yesterday, he said he can't do this without Smitty. He knows they need each other, and it's not lip service. They actually genuinely like each other. So I wouldn't be surprised if a move like that, because AJ, even if they restructure his contract, he's still going to get paid. He's still going to get that money, and you at least buy yourself two. And here's another thing you can possibly look at too: the way, just like Patrick Mahomes does with his contract, you have Jalen Hurts. His contract can always be restructured to free up some more money as well too. So that, keep that in the back of your mind when you look at that. Blaine Johnson's, he has that has his weird 1 year extension, so like $32 million, something like that, crazy. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he restructures that too. So there's things in place so they can get some money so they can put DeVonta Smith on the cap, and they need them because this offense. If you keep the three of the Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, and you keep DeVonta Smith all together, it could be a couple. We have at least 2, 3, maybe 4 years of guys of production from that offense.
that's a good point, man, because they do restructure a lot and they do put that big money at the end so they can restructure and give people a couple more deals. And I think that's a great point. And I think that also shows that these guys like playing here, like you said. I mean, they wouldn't be privy to do that. Now, these two guys almost, I kept trying to think of a scenario where two basically number one receivers were so unselfish in the NFL. And I keep going back to, Julio Jones and Roddy White. And I think
Yep.
people forget how good Roddy White really was. And, Matt Ryan had, and at that time, they had Tony Gonzalez.
Yep.
So you think about that, you're like, wow, like, that could be our big three with Dallas Goddard. You never know.
Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt. That's another
Yep.
combo where you look at
Greatest
those like
show on
they
turf.
yep, they have a lot. They have the pieces there now. The Goddard, and this is all speculation on that front. The Goddard one, he's going to be due up pretty soon too. So
Yep.
that's where I'm very interested in the next year's draft to see what the team does. If they draft a tight end, that
Mhm.
might start to deal this, and they might start. I'm starting looking at Teal's like, oh, draft a tight
Yeah.
end. It's like when they drafted Goddard when Zach Ertz was here. Oh, here we go now. So I think that's something to watch for next year. But yeah, they have a core of not just the skill position, but offensive line and everything else. They have a core for this offense to be successful. We know how Jeffrey Lurie loves his offense, so
Oh,
yeah, it's
yeah.
important.
Oh yeah, he love Jeff. Big Jeff loves the offense, man. We know that he's all about the points. And I'll tell you what. Speaking of points, I got to ask you this. Like I can't. You alluded to the defense, and we talked about the defense, and I get it. We could talk about all night, but I just never saw before in my life as a fan, as an analyst, a host, whatever, a defense that broke nearly a sack record the year before, can't even get to a quarterback. And it just seems so odd. You can't like every single one of these players can't be that bad. And it's crazy. Even the secondary, I think the secondary gets a raw deal. I do. I don't. I think it's more the safeties than it is the corners. And I think last year people have to realize that we had so many sacks, we got to the quarterback so much that they didn't have to play cover corners, man. They didn't have all that time to have to run around with these guys. And now they do, and they're getting exposed, but that's really not what they're paid to do. So I can't believe, whether it's the side, whether it's Patricia, whether it's culture, whether it's coaching. But I mean, do you think that we can fix this, man? Like, and actually be able to win a couple playoff games?
Who would have thought they would have said Jonathan Gannon? You
Yes.
missed Jonathan Gannon. But the one thing I will say this: the schedule was a lot harder this year than it was last year. But the one thing that Gannon did very well was that he really used he had the defensive line and the second back seven in sync. And when I look at the defense that they have this year, the defensive line is doing one concept, the linebackers are doing another concept, and the secondary is doing something different. And there always seems to be difficult. You see communication issues. You see the back end. It's tough to play this matchup zone that they love to use, the Fangio scheme with these matchups, and it's really tough. And you need to really have a lot of veterans or guys who can do it quickly. And one thing and reasons because they're having communications, I think that's part of it too. You're not seeing sacks, and everybody's in the three levels are doing things completely different. It's not allowing the defensive line to get there in time, and then get if you allow a quarterback to start to scan the field, your secondary starts to get picked apart. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did like if they started looking around during this off season for a defensive coordinator. I mean I know that they say like Patricia, I know they said that Desai is a very important piece of that. But even when both of them have taken the helm, the defensive line with all these players here is still not being as effective as they were. If anything, you could truly say that when Desai was under control, the defensive line was at least getting more pressures than they were currently with Patricia. So it's a it's a it's I don't know when you're looking at this. I think they do it against the Giants. I think they better do it against the Giants. But I think they do
Yeah.
against the Giants. Buccaneers, I think they can handle enough. I mean, Mike Evans is Mike Evans. And you pretty much have to go back to the same game plan you had in week 3 when you played them and they won. Which they held them to 11 points under the side.
Yep.
Wait, nudge, nudge. But when you look at everything else, I don't know. I don't know how you stop this offense stops San Fran. I don't know how you stop Dallas in Dallas. And even frankly, if they're on the road, if Detroit somehow they face Detroit on the road, I don't know how they stop them too. Because Jameer Gibbs against the run defense right now pretty much scares me. And David Montgomery, whoever, doesn't matter who's back there against the way they've missed tackles and everything else, pretty much scares me if I'm the Eagles.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. 100%. Again, we got Chris Franklin on the line at C Franklin News, beat reporter for the Eagles, NJ.com. Make sure you're following that link that's scrolling across the screen. You get all his articles that he does on a tremendous basis every single day. Chris, I'll get you out of here on these last two. Number one, let me just ask you this because I look at this team and, we lived through the Andy Reid era where Andy would always say, we don't need a number one receiver. And, right? We went through
Yep.
that until we got T.O. and it was like, whoa, what happened? Is there a possibility for this team, who obviously does not value linebackers, to do the same flip of a script in this offseason and say, you know what? Yeah, we're going to go out and do that? Because I look around and I look at these top teams. They all have a tremendous linebacking core, and we're the only one that doesn't. And I know it's their culture, but do you think they'll ever flip the script like they did with T.O. and they actually go after that position?
I have a better chance of growing an afro right now than that ever happening. Kid. That's not happening at this one.
I
Yeah,
love it.
this team,
Man. I
this
love it.
team really is not going. That they're built from they built the shell concept, build the defensive lines. They've been doing that forever, and then the Andy Reid's imprint still on here. Build along the line of scrimmage, get some cover corners on there, and then just try to develop a linebacker and safety, and hope they do that. Be
Man.
Reed Blankenship, who's arguably being your best safety, undrafted free agent. And you see what's happened right now when it comes to linebackers. Jacoby Dean he's still recovering. I don't think we're seeing it for the rest of the season because he was walking with a cane.
Ooh.
It's better, but he had to roll the knee scooter earlier a few weeks ago, but now he's elevated to walking now with the assistance of the cane. So he's still that plantar fasciitis is still messing with him. So I don't think we're seeing it for the rest of the season. But I think when you look at that, it's if anything, I think your fix is you get a veteran linebacker who won't be too cost so much, and you draft a guy again, probably maybe with a maybe the big thing was, hey, the Eagles use a second round pick on a linebacker. They're not going to use the first one because Jerry Robinson was the last one, and that was like
Wow,
79 or something like that. So yeah, it's not happening anytime soon. So
man.
yeah, get ready for. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to. They talk to Shaq Leonard because Sirianni's affinity for him, and yeah, I don't know where the next T.J. Edwards is coming from. I don't know where they get the linebackers from, but it's probably the starting linebacker. You may have Shaq Leonard starting, but the other one, maybe Zach Cunningham comes back. But yeah, it's good luck.
That's crazy, man. It's just, I mean, listen, I know it's their mentality, but here's the thing, you could build a line all you want, but when you draft a guy like Jordan Davis who's not producing, and you put all your eggs in that kind of basket. I mean, it kind of leaves you out, in the ocean, not being able to swim. And but I guess they just take their chances. I don't know. I think, like you said, it's just one of those things that they're going to stick to the script and keep plugging away. I'll get you out on this. Just fun question. I opened this up to everybody tonight, and I've had some great answers. And I had a question last on the show, and I asked everybody: is it to you? Is it more important to have a better head coach than a quarterback, or is it more important to have the great quarterback and an average head coach? And the reason why I asked that is I look around and listen, my favorite coach of all time will always be Mike Tomlin. And just seeing Mike Tomlin out there continue to get garbage out of gold and never have a losing season and always in the playoff hunt. You look at Stefanski that's just rolling over quarterbacks. I just think like maybe it is the coach. And if it is, if Chris Franklin was owned a team today, who would your power couple be? And what I mean is, if you could take one head coach and one quarterback, and I know you can't be biased, okay, but if you could take
I'm
one
not.
head coach and one quarterback from the same team, obviously, is it Reed Mahomes? Is it Jackson Harbaugh? Who would those guys be?
That's a very good question. With my Powerball money, I'm probably going to buy. Oh, that's tough.
It's right.
That's really good because I can see Reed Mahomes because then I can still get the most out of that, but I still reminded of Andy's clock management, and that still
Yep.
scares me if I comes on that one too. Part of me, oh, I gotta think
It's a
about
tough
this
one,
one
man.
because there's a lot of average coaches out there that lucked into some really good
Yeah.
quarterbacks. I'm like, I mean, see, I don't like Purdy like that. Like even Shanahan, when it comes to that system, I'm not a big Shanahan guy, but the
Okay.
system works really good, and his
It
clock
does.
management kind of good. You know
I,
what? I probably have to go. I'm gonna have to go read my homes, and I'm gonna have to get Andy Reid in front of and say, you know what? No cheeseburgers, no nuggies, whatever you want for it. Sit inside this room for the rest of the summer. View what the clock management has done. The other teams have done with clock management wise, and fix this because it's about time. You've been in the league too long for that to happen.
Yeah, man. I love it, man. I love because it does, man. That's the one thing that will always follow Andy Reid, man. No matter what, the clock management kills him. And hey, listen, Kansas City's dealing with the same thing we dealt with Andy Reid out there. They have no receivers whatsoever, and nobody can catch the ball. So you might as well have James Thrash, Todd Pickens, and Charles Johnson out there. It doesn't matter.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. The Charles Johnson torn small year. Oh my
Yeah, Torrance,
gosh.
the Indianapolis Colts, Torrance Small, man. Like,
Oh my
think about
goodness.
all the dreck that we went through, man. Like, it's
Nate Brown.
crazy.
Nate Brown.
The training camp superstar, man. Chris T. Jones.
Oh, I
Like,
forgot about that name. Oh,
yeah,
Reggie
man.
Brown.
Uh,
Reggie
Oh,
Brown. He was
oh
the
my
next one. The
Reggie.
next one.
Oh my God. Think about it, man. It's just so crazy. We
Triggered
went
now.
through them all, man. We went
I'm
through them
really
all.
triggered. I don't know what to do now. I need to go to my safe space, man, because that's a really, really tough. Those names. Oof. Oh boy.
I know, man. You got yeah, and honestly, man, that's why, like, I do this because yeah, I want to do like give everybody an alternative, and I'm like a historian. I like going back and thinking, and it's great to talk about the trending topics, but it's also go back. Like I still think the kids of today. I'm 45, and these kids, like I try to tell my kids, like you don't know enough of how these games were built. Like you're always looking at Steph Curry. You've never went back to the 80s or the 90s and watched the NBA because 30 years where you're going to learn. Like they paved the way for those guys. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I love doing that. But Chris, listen, man. I appreciate it as always. I know you're a busy dude, and to come at 11:15 at night on a late night show and give me 20, 25 minutes to us an audience, I'm forever grateful, man. I really appreciate it.
Dude, man, you're always good people, man. If I ever I got free time, man, you know I'm there, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. It's a lot of fun, as always,
Oh
Tony,
yeah,
man. I
man.
appreciate it.
Anytime, anytime. And tell the audience, you have something coming up. And like I've always told you, man, if you need any help getting the word out for anything, you let me know. And if you're ever in Bucks County, man, we'll have to get
I didn't forget
together.
about that. I did not forget about that. No,
Don't
no, no,
forget
no.
about
We
it,
were
bro.
getting a
That's all
drink.
me, man.
You know, man. And, yeah, we're definitely going out and having a drink, man. Definitely.
Oh
Sounds
yeah.
great.
Definitely. So, what you got going on for the rest of the week? Anything big? Obviously, besides the 4 o'clock Eagles game.
No, I'm just prepping for that and getting ready for the playoff stuff, the playoff push, and getting some content out ready for that. So I'm looking forward to it. And it's gonna. I think you're gonna have when all said and done, we're gonna have a good field of 14 teams. Yeah, even the NFC South's gonna have to be included with that. But we're gonna have a good field of 14 teams, and it'll be good. It'll be good football to watch. It'll be exciting to watch.
Yeah, man. Enjoy it. Right. We got a month left of football, man. A month left.
That hurts hearing
Yeah,
that.
I know. And then we have to. Spring training comes around, and we're all baseballed up, man. And maybe the Sixers can do a little something special. We'll see, man.
That would be nice.
It would be nice. I'll tell you what, man. They're actually making me at least excited about the passion that they play with. So, I am happy about that. So you never know, man. You never know.
Man. It's
Never
fun times.
But
Fun
thanks
times.
again, man. Listen, I greatly appreciate as always, Chris, and you're always welcome on the show. And like I said, anything you ever need from me, man, I'm always there. I appreciate it.
Likewise, man. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Tony.
You got it, man. Have a great night.
You too.
That is Chris Franklin on the line, man. Listen, like I say all the time, man, I love the people that we get on this program. Like, did you hear what Chris said? Like, I cannot wait. Like, let's just think about this for 1 second. Okay. Think about what Chris said. The one thing that I love, and this is where you're not going to get anywhere else, right? You're not going to get anywhere else except Chris being live on the line tonight. You just heard him talk about the defense, about how they're playing such a difficult style to where each part of the structure, each part of the defensive tier is running a different motion, man. That's confusing as hell. So again,